Okay, so we're thinking about things. We're thinking about an issue. We're thinking about a problem. We decide we're going to have to speak about it. We're going to speak into a relationship with someone else, and we're going to have to speak using some kind of language. It may not be the spoken word, it may be other kinds of language, but in some way, I have a concept in my head that I want to communicate to somebody else in such a way that we're going to connect over this. We're going to have to use some kind of language. Right? Language communicates through bits of meaning that we call words. And so language becomes a good example of a kind of system, to go back to what we were saying in the last video about understanding the nature of systems. If you look at a book is a system. It is made up of sections and chapters. And each of the chapters is made up of paragraphs, and each of the paragraphs is made up of sentences, and each of the sentences are made up of words, and each of the words are made up of letters, and the letters are made up of pixels, or however it is that we make that come to life, right? So a sentence is a whole thing, but it is a part of the paragraph, and it's made up of parts which are words. As a human being, I'm a whole thing, but I'm made up of parts, organ parts, and I'm a whole thing in relationship with others. So I'm a part of a family, of a community. There's other folks around me that are going on. Everything is a whole part. Now, the word for that whole part is holon. Arthur Koestler, back in 1967, wrote a book called The Ghost and the Machine, and he coined this term holon to refer to the fact that everything is a whole part. It's both of a part of everything else, and it's a whole in and of itself. And every time I try to use the word holon, my wife says, you can't use that word, nobody knows what it means. As a matter of fact, as I was typing out the script for even what I'm saying here, my spell checker came up and underlined it in red, doesn't know what a holon is. So however beneficial that word might be to me in terms of how I think about things, it's not beneficial to me in terms of communicating to others because other people don't know what a holon is. So we have to be able to use language in such a way that we're using the language that other people can understand. And we're going to talk more about this later, but in terms of our speaking, I have to be listening to my own speaking from the perspective of those I'm speaking to so that I'm listening for what it is that I think they are going to be able to hear. So we have different languages by which we speak. We can speak in English, or we can speak in French. We can also speak in mathematics. Mathematics is a language, it's a kind of universal language, but there's some things that are really hard to say in mathematics. It's really hard to write poetry in mathematics. So math is one way of talking, but myth is another way of talking. We need the numbers, but we also need the narrative. We need a way of putting it together. And it's the interplay between math and myth, or between numbers and narrative, that allows a language to have a kind of whole form. But there are certain things that you can say in English that you can't say in French, and there are certain things in French that don't work so well in English. It's my understanding that when diplomats in Europe are having a business meeting, they speak in English. And when they go out for dinner afterwards, they speak in French. It creates a different kind of feeling. The language that we use is a kind of map that conveys meaning. It's how we connect with each other. So we want to be able to use the language that actually works the best to describe the problem that we're trying to solve. All right?